I spent 3 years crying over negative pregnancy tests because he said we can't afford kids. Then he bought a sports car, and the roar of that engine in our driveway sounded exactly like the death rattle of my marriage. For 36 months, I had been the good wife, the frugal partner, the woman who clipped coupons and dyed her own hair over the kitchen sink, because my husband, Gavin, convinced me that we were teetering on the edge of financial ruin. He told me that bringing a child into our precarious situation would be irresponsible, selfish, and reckless. I believed him. I swallowed my desire for a family, burying it under spreadsheets and budget apps, convinced that we were sacrificing for a stable future. But when I saw that cherry red Porsche 911 parked in the spot where a minivan should have been, I realized that we weren't broke. I was broke. Gavin was just hoarding the happiness for himself. Before I tell you how I took a man who loved horsepower more than he loved his wife and stripped him down to the chassis, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and like this video. If you've ever been told no by a partner who was secretly saying yes to themselves, you are in the right place. Pour yourself something strong because this ride gets bumpy. My name is Sarah, and I am, or I was, a graphic designer who believed in the myth of the power couple. When I married Gavin 5 years ago, I thought we were building an empire. He was a financial consultant, a man who wore three-piece suits and spoke in acronyms like ROI and EBITDA. I was the creative soul, the one who made things beautiful. We balanced each other out, or so I thought. From the beginning, Gavin insisted on managing the finances. "It's my field, babe," he'd say, kissing my forehead. "You don't want to worry about tax brackets and investment portfolios. You just focus on your art. I'll keep the ship afloat." It sounded romantic. It felt like protection. So I handed over my paychecks. I let him deposit my freelance earnings into our joint operating account, from which he would dispense an allowance for household expenses and my personal needs. At first, it was fine. We were saving for a house, for a future, but then the tightening began. When I turned 32, the baby fever hit me hard. It wasn't just a want, it was a physical ache. I started lingering in the baby aisle at Target, running my fingers over soft cotton onesies. I started looking at the spare room, imagining it painted a soft sage green. I brought it up over dinner one night. I had made Gavin's favorite, roast chicken with rosemary, and the mood was light. "Gavin," I said, twirling my wine glass. I was thinking, we've been in the condo for 2 years. Your promotion came through. Maybe it's time we pull the goalie? Start trying? The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Gavin put down his fork. He looked at me with the same expression he used when a waiter brought him the wrong vintage of wine. Disappointment mixed with condescension. "Sarah," he sighed, removing his glasses and rubbing the bridge of his nose. "We've talked about this. Do you have any idea how much a child costs? The initial capital outlay alone is $20,000 for the first year. That's not including the 529 plan we'd need to fund immediately to leverage compound interest." "I know it's expensive," I stammered, feeling small. "But we both work. We make good money. My freelance business is up 20% this year. And inflation is up 8%, he countered, pulling out his phone to open a calculator. "Look at the numbers, Sarah. Our liquidity is low. Most of our capital is tied up in long-term yield bonds. If we have a baby now, we compromise our retirement. Do you want to be greeting at Walmart when you're 70 because you wanted a baby when you were 32? He spun the logic so fast, I couldn't keep up. He made me feel reckless. He made me feel like a child asking for a pony while the house was burning down. "We just can't afford it," he said firmly. "Not yet. Maybe in 5 years, when the market stabilizes." 5 years. I would be 37. It felt like a lifetime away. But I trusted him. He was the finance guy. He knew the numbers. So I sacrificed. To help the family economy, I cut back on everything. I stopped buying new clothes. I canceled my gym membership and started running in the park. I started buying generic brands. I even took on extra clients, working late into the night designing logos for startups, dumping every extra cent into the joint account to speed up the timeline. Every time I transferred money, I'd text him another $500 for the baby fund. He would reply with a thumbs up emoji. This went on for 3 years. 3 years of scrimping. 3 years of watching my friends announce pregnancies on Instagram while I sat in our beige condo, eating leftovers, telling myself I was being a responsible adult. The cracks started to show on a Tuesday in October. I had come home early from a client meeting that got canceled. It was 2 p.m. Usually, Gavin was at his office downtown until 7 p.m. But as I walked up the driveway of our townhouse complex, I saw something that made me stop dead in my tracks. Gavin was standing in the driveway, and he wasn't alone. He was standing next to a car, not his sensible 5-year-old Audi sedan. He was standing next to a brand new, aggressive, cherry red Porsche 911 Carrera. The sunlight glinted off the polished curves. It looked like a missile made of money. Gavin was laughing. He was wearing sunglasses I had never seen before, aviators that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. He was talking to a neighbor, slapping the roof of the car affectionately. I felt a strange buzzing in my ears. Maybe it was a client's car? Maybe he was car sitting? I walked up the driveway, my heels clicking on the pavement. Gavin turned. When he saw me, his smile faltered for a fraction of a second, but then it reassembled into something slick and practiced. "Sarah," he called out, spreading his arms. "You're home early. Whose car is that?" I asked, pointing a shaking finger at the red beast. "Isn't she a beauty?" Gavin beamed, walking over and wrapping an arm around my rigid shoulders. "It's a lease. Corporate perk, sort of." "A corporate perk?" I repeated. "Your company buys sports cars for mid-level consultants?" "Well, not buys," Gavin said, his voice dropping to that reasonable, explanatory tone I hated. "I had to upgrade my image, Sarah. I'm going for the partner track next quarter. I can't show up to meetings with high net worth individuals driving that old Audi. It screams middle management. This screams success. It's an investment in my brand. It's practically a business expense." "How much?" I asked. "It's a lease, babe. The monthly is—" "How much?" "$1,800, he mumbled. $1,800? I shrieked, the neighbor looking awkward, muttered a goodbye, and hurried into his house. "Gavin, that's diapers. That's daycare. That's the baby you said we couldn't afford." "Lower your voice," he hissed, his grip on my shoulder tightening. "You're embarrassing me. You don't understand how these things work. This car is going to get me clients that will pay 10 times that amount. It's leverage. You have to spend money to make money." "We don't have money," I yelled, tears stinging my eyes. "You told me we were broke. You told me my coffee habit was destroying our retirement. And you go out and get a Porsche?" "It's for us," he said, looking at me like I was a hysterical toddler. "Why can't you support me? I'm out here busting my ass to build a life for us, and the first thing you do is nag me about the cost. This is why I handle the money, Sarah. You're too emotional." He unlocked the car with a chirp. "I have to head back to the office. I just stopped by to grab some files. We'll talk about this later. And stop crying in the driveway, it looks desperate." He got in. The engine roared to life, a deep guttural growl that shook my bones. He reversed out, gave me a quick wave, and sped off. I stood there in the exhaust fumes, feeling like I had been slapped. He didn't just buy a car. He bought a symbol. He bought a giant red billboard that said, "I do what I want, and you get the scraps." I walked into the house, my legs feeling like jelly. I went straight to his home office. Usually the door was locked. Gavin was paranoid about security, but in his haste to show off the car or grab his files, he had left it ajar. I pushed it open. The room smelled of mahogany and secrets. I sat down at his desk. I needed to see it. I needed to see the numbers. I woke up his computer. Password protected, of course. But Gavin was arrogant. He thought I was bad with tech just because I was an artist. He didn't realize that being a graphic designer meant I spent 12 hours a day on a computer. And he didn't realize that I knew his password was always some variation of his own name and his high school football jersey number. Gavin 88. Incorrect. Gavin Varsity 88. Incorrect. I paused. I looked around the room. My eyes landed on the framed photo of the Porsche he had clearly printed out and put on his vision board weeks ago. Porsche 911. Click. The desktop opened. I didn't go to his browser history. I went straight to the financial software, Quicken. He had it set up to auto login. I opened the joint operating account, the one I could see on my phone app. It showed a balance of $4,200. Tight, but manageable, just like he said. Then I looked at the sidebar. There were other accounts linked, accounts I didn't have access to on my phone. Gavin Personal, Chase. Gavin High Yield, Vanguard. G Crypto. My breath hitched. I clicked on Gavin Personal, Chase. The balance stared back at me, mocking every generic brand cereal box I had forced myself to eat. $68,450. I clicked on Gavin High Yield. $145,000. I felt physically ill. We weren't broke, we were rich. Or rather, he was rich. He had been siphoning my money, my freelance checks, my contributions, and funneling them into his private accounts. I clicked on the transaction history for his personal checking account. Porsche Leasing LLC, not $850. The Gents Club. Saks Fifth Avenue. Ticketmaster, VIP Giants tickets, $1,200. He was living the life of a bachelor king while I was scrubbing the grout in the shower to save on a cleaning lady. But then, I saw something that made the Porsche look like a minor infraction. I scrolled down to last month. Zales Jewelers, $30,500. I looked at my hand. My wedding band was a simple gold loop. My engagement ring was a modest moissanite stone because Gavin said diamonds were a scam created by the De Beers cartel. I hadn't received any jewelry last month. My birthday was in June. It was October. Who got $3,000 worth of jewelry? My hands were shaking so hard I could barely control the mouse. I searched the transaction history for Zales. There was another charge 6 months ago, $800, and another one a year ago, $1,200. He wasn't just hoarding money, he was spending it on someone. I pulled out my phone and took photos of the screen. Every account balance, every transaction, every lie. I was about to close the window when I heard the front door open downstairs. Sarah? I forgot my phone charger. Gavin. He was back. I froze. If he caught me on his computer, he would lock everything down. He would gaslight me, tell me I was invading his privacy, tell me the money was client funds, or some other lie I couldn't disprove immediately. I needed to get out of the chair. Sarah? His footsteps were heavy on the stairs. I minimized the windows, wiped the mouse with my sleeve to remove my palm sweat, and sprinted out of the office just as he reached the landing. I met him in the hallway, pressing my back against the wall, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. There you are, he said, looking annoyed. Did you calm down? I'm trying, I lied, my voice trembling. I was just looking for the laundry basket. He looked at me suspiciously. He looked at the closed door of his office. Then he looked back at me. You look pale, he said. Are you sick? Just a headache, I said, from the crying. He softened, just a fraction. Look, babe, I know the car was a shock, but trust me, I'm doing this for us. Once I make partner, we can talk about the baby thing again, okay? Just give me another year. Another year. Another year of lies. Another year of funding his mistress. Because I knew in my gut there was a mistress. Okay, Gavin, I whispered. I trust you. He smiled, that slick, satisfied smile of a man who thinks he holds all the cards. Good girl, he said. He kissed my cheek. He smelled of expensive leather and betrayal. I'll be late tonight. Client dinner. Don't wait up. He went into the bedroom, grabbed his charger, and left. I waited until I heard the Porsche roar away down the street. Then I sank to the floor in the hallway. He thought I was the good girl, the frugal wife, the pushover. He didn't realize that he had just handed me the weapon to destroy him. I looked at the photos on my phone. He had the money. He had the car. He probably had the girl. But I had the passwords, and I was a graphic designer. I knew how to edit. I knew how to create, and I knew exactly how to dismantle a brand. I stood up. I wasn't going to cry anymore. I wasn't going to save anymore. You want to talk about ROI, Gavin? I whispered to the empty house. Let's see what the return on investment is for a scorned wife. I walked into the kitchen and opened the drawer where we kept the spare keys. I found the key to his file cabinet, the one he thought I didn't know about. If he was buying jewelry, there were receipts. If there were receipts, there was a name. I was going to find her. And then I was going to introduce myself. The key turned in the lock of the file cabinet with a soft, metallic click, a sound that felt less like opening a drawer and more like loading a chamber. I held my breath, listening for the roar of the Porsche returning, but the street outside remained silent. The house was still, save for the hum of the refrigerator and the frantic pounding of my own heart. I slid the drawer open. Gavin was meticulous. That was his brand. Order is profit, he liked to say. The files were color-coded, labeled in his sharp architectural handwriting. Taxes 2023. Mortgage, insurance. I bypassed those. I went to the back where the hanging folders were jam-packed and less structured. I was looking for the debris of his secret life, and there it was. A folder labeled simply, Consulting, MISC. It was the perfect hiding spot. Boring, vague. If I ever stumbled across it, I would assume it was just boring work paperwork. I opened it. It wasn't work. Inside was a stack of receipts, neatly paper-clipped by month. I flipped through them, my graphic designer eye instantly picking out the patterns. The Ritz-Carlton Spa Weekend, $1,400. StubHub, Beyoncé floor seats, $800. Nordstrom, designer handbag, $2,600. I felt a wave of nausea roll over me. I remembered that weekend. He told me he was at a mandatory compliance seminar in Des Moines. He had actually been at the Ritz, 20 minutes from our house, getting massages with someone else. Then I found the smoking gun, a receipt from a flower delivery service dated 3 days ago. Order, 2 dozen long-stem roses. Recipient Vanessa Cole, address 1400 State Street, App 4B. Card note, to the best investment I ever made. Can't wait to celebrate the new ride with you. Vanessa Cole. The name rang a bell, faint and distant. I pulled out my phone and opened LinkedIn. I typed the name. Her profile popped up instantly. Vanessa Cole, junior financial analyst at Sterling & Partners. Gavin's firm. She was 24. Her profile picture showed a girl with blindingly white teeth, blown-out blonde hair, and the kind of hungry, ambitious eyes that see people as rungs on a ladder. She had graduated college 2 years ago. Gavin was her direct supervisor. I stared at her face. She was beautiful, yes, but she was also a cliché. The midlife crisis starter pack, the ego stroke. I looked at the experience section. She had been promoted 3 months ago, right around the time Gavin started transferring large sums into his secret account. I closed the folder, took photos of every receipt, every incriminating note, and then put everything back exactly as I found it. I wiped the handle of the cabinet with the hem of my shirt. I wasn't just sad anymore. The sadness had evaporated, replaced by a cold, calculating fury. He wasn't just cheating, he was humiliating me. He was starving me out, making me beg for grocery money while he showered this child with luxury. I needed to see them. I know it sounds masochistic. Why torture yourself? But I needed to know the enemy. I needed to see the dynamic. Was it love or was it transactional? I checked the time, 6:30 p.m. He said he had a client dinner. I knew Gavin's routine. When he wanted to impress a high net worth individual, or in this case, a high maintenance mistress, he went to one of 3 places. The places where the steak was aged for 40 days and the waiters knew not to bring the check until the end. I pulled up the Find My app on the iPad we shared. The one he always forgot was linked to his Apple ID because he only used it to watch Netflix on planes. There he was. A pulsing blue dot downtown. Location, Le Montage, the most expensive French restaurant in the city, a place we had gone once for our 5th anniversary, where he spent the entire night complaining about the price of the wine. I ran upstairs. I didn't put on a disguise that only works in movies. I put on camouflage, dark jeans, a black turtleneck, a beige trench coat. I tied my hair back and put on a baseball cap. I looked like a celebrity trying to avoid paparazzi or just a tired woman running errands. I called an Uber. I couldn't drive my car. He would recognize it. 20 minutes later, I was standing across the street from Le Montage, and there it was. The cherry red Porsche 911, parked right in front by the valet stand. It was the peacock's feather, displayed for everyone to see. I walked into the restaurant. The hostess looked at my baseball cap with disdain. I'm meeting a party, I lied smoothly. The Sterling party. I'm the assistant. I just need to drop off some documents. Oh, she softened. Mr. Sterling's group? They're in the main dining room, booth 4. She thought I meant the owner of the firm. I just walked past her before she could ask for a name. I didn't go to the booth. I went to the bar, which offered a shadowy vantage point of the dining room. I ordered a sparkling water and turned my back to the room, watching the reflection in the mirror behind the bar. I saw them. They were in a plush, circular booth. Gavin was facing me. Vanessa was next to him, her hand resting on his thigh. He looked different, animated. He was laughing with his whole body, his face flushed with wine and adoration. He looked like the man I fell in love with 10 years ago, before the spreadsheets and the bitterness took over. Vanessa was wearing the YSL bag. It was sitting on the table like a centerpiece. On her wrist, the diamond tennis bracelet from Zales glittered under the chandelier light. I watched as the waiter brought the bill. This was the moment. Gavin didn't reach for his personal wallet. He didn't reach for the secret debit card. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out the heavy black titanium card. The corporate Amex. I froze, my grip on the water glass tightening. He was expensing the dinner. He was taking his mistress out for a $1,000 meal and charging it to Sterling and Partners. I watched him sign the receipt. He didn't even hesitate. He scribbled his name, added a generous tip with the company's money, and pocketed the customer copy. Then he leaned in and kissed her. It wasn't a peck. It was deep, possessive, and right there in the open. I turned away from the mirror, my heart hammering a frantic rhythm. This was better than a sex tape. This was leverage. Gavin's entire identity was wrapped up in his career. He was the finance guy, the ethical consultant. If the firm found out he was sleeping with a subordinate, a major HR violation, and using company funds to court her, embezzlement and fraud, he wouldn't just be fired. He would be blacklisted. He would lose his license. He would be destitute. And the Porsche? That silly lease he signed? He'd default on it in a month. I left the bar before they stood up. I slipped out into the cool night air, shaking. Not from fear, but from the sheer magnitude of the weapon I had just been handed. I took an Uber home. I beat him by an hour. When I got back, I went straight to his home office again. I needed to move fast. I logged back into his computer. Porsche 911. I went to the secret Chase account, the one with $68,000. I couldn't just transfer it all at once. The bank would flag it. I needed to be smart. I opened a new high-yield savings account in my name, only at a completely different bank. Online, instant approval. Then I initiated a transfer from his secret account to my new one. Amount $9,500, just under the $10,000 IRS reporting threshold. I couldn't drain it all tonight, but I could bleed him dry over the next week. I sat back, looking at the screen. I saw a folder on his desktop labeled Expense Reports 2024. I opened it. It was a spreadsheet. He was meticulous, remember? I scrolled through the entries. Date, Oct. 12th. Location, La Montage. Amount $840. Client, Prospect, J. Peterson. Date, Oct. 14. Location, The Ritz Spa. Amount, 14 Building V, Cole. He was listing Vanessa as a legitimate business expense. He was documenting his own crimes in Excel. I inserted a USB drive I used for my design backups. I copied the folder. I copied the bank statements. I copied everything. Then I heard the rumble. The Porsche was back. I yanked the USB drive out, closed the windows, and put the computer to sleep. I wiped the mouse again. I ran to our bedroom, stripped off my spy clothes, and shoved them to the bottom of the hamper. I pulled on my old, oversized t-shirt and jumped into bed. I lay there, controlling my breathing as I heard the front door open. "Sarah?" he called out. His voice was cheerful, too loud. I didn't answer. He walked up the stairs. He came into the bedroom. I smelled him before I saw him. He smelled of rich food, expensive wine, and her perfume, something floral and cloying. He sat on the edge of the bed. He reached out and stroked my hair. "You asleep, babe?" he whispered. I stirred, faking a groggy wake-up. Gavin?" "Hey," he said softly. "Sorry I'm late. The client was difficult, had to really massage the deal." "Did you get it?" I asked, keeping my eyes half closed so he couldn't see the hatred burning in them. "I think so," he said, standing up and loosening his tie. "I think I'm going to make partner for sure. And then we can finally relax." "That sounds nice," I whispered. "I'm happy for you." He chuckled. "Go back to sleep. I'm going to shower." Yuki walked into the bathroom. I heard the shower turn on. He was washing her scent off him so he could sleep next to me. I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling. He thought he was the master of the universe. He thought I was the dumb, frugal wife who clipped coupons and asked permission to buy shampoo. He didn't know that I had just started a transfer that would trigger the first domino. Tomorrow, he would go to work and flirt with Vanessa. Tomorrow, I would go to a divorce lawyer. But not just any lawyer. I needed a shark. Someone who understood that a marriage isn't just a partnership, it's a contract. And Gavin was in breach. But first, I needed to deal with the Porsche. I smiled in the dark. He loved that car. He loved it more than me. Well, since we were one financial entity, and since my name was on the insurance policy, I had checked the mail 2 days ago, technically, I had driving privileges, and I had an idea. The next morning, Gavin left for work in the Audi. He claimed it was because he was visiting a client at a manufacturing plant and didn't want to get dust on the baby. But I knew the truth. He took the sensible car because he was playing the role of the hardworking, budget-conscious employee for his bosses, saving the flashy Porsche for his evenings with Vanessa. He kissed me goodbye, a distracted peck on the cheek. "Don't forget to call the cable company and negotiate that rate down," he said, checking his watch. "Every $10 counts, Sarah." "I'm on it," I said, my voice sweet as poison. As soon as his Audi disappeared around the corner, I walked into the kitchen and picked up the spare key to the Porsche. It felt heavy in my hand, a dense fob of black plastic and chrome. He treated this key like a holy relic, keeping it in a velvet pouch in his drawer. I walked out to the garage. The red car gleamed under the fluorescent lights, aggressive and sleek. It sat there like a mistress in my own home. I unlocked it. The interior smelled of new leather and Gavin's arrogance. "Well," I whispered, "let's see what $1,800 a month feels like." I slid into the driver's seat. It hugged my hips perfectly. I adjusted the mirrors, started the engine, and listened to the guttural roar that echoed off the garage walls. I backed out, not carefully, but quickly. I didn't drive it like a precious jewel, I drove it like I stole it. I merged onto the highway, flooring the accelerator. The G-force pinned me back against the seat. I hit 80, then 90. For a moment, just a fleeting moment, I understood the appeal. It felt powerful. It felt like freedom. But then I remembered that this freedom was bought with the money meant for our child, and the thrill turned to ash. I had an appointment at 10 a.m., but I had a stop to make first. I pulled into the drive-thru of a greasy burger joint 3 miles from our house. "Welcome to Burger King. Can I take your order?" "Yes," I said, shouting over the rumble of the engine. "I'll take a double Whopper with cheese, extra large fries, and a large chocolate shake." I paid at the window. The teenager handing me the bag looked at the car, then at me and my oversized sunglasses. "Nice ride," he grunted. "Thanks," I said. "My husband bought it instead of a crib." I pulled into a parking spot. I didn't eat outside. I ate inside the car. I unwrapped the greasy burger. I let the crumbs fall where they may. I dipped a fry in ketchup and accidentally dropped a glob of red sauce onto the pristine, now cream-colored stitching of the passenger seat, the seat Vanessa sat in. I didn't wipe it up. I rubbed it in with my thumb until it stained. It was petty. It was childish. And it felt absolutely fantastic. I finished my meal, leaving the greasy wrapper on the floor mat, and drove to the financial district. I valet parked the Porsche right in front of the high-rise building on 4th Avenue. The valet looked nervous taking the keys. "Be careful with it," I told him. "Or don't. I don't really care." I took the elevator to the 40th floor. Stone and Associates. Veronica Stone was the divorce lawyer everyone whispered about. She didn't advertise. She didn't need to. She was known simply as the Scalpel. I sat in her glass-walled conference room. Veronica walked in. She was a striking woman in her 50s, with silver hair cut in a sharp bob and a suit that looked like it was made of steel wool and intimidation. "Sarah," she said, not offering a handshake, just sitting down and opening a notepad. "You said on the phone you have a financial discrepancy involving a spouse." "I have a fraud case masquerading as a marriage," I corrected. I laid it all out. I slid the photos of the secret bank accounts across the table. I showed her the lease agreement for the Porsche. I showed her the receipts for the jewelry. Veronica nodded, her face impassive. "Standard dissipation of marital assets. We can get half of that back. Maybe more if the judge hates sports cars." "That's not all," I said. I pulled out the USB drive. "Gavin is a consultant at Sterling and Partners," I said. "He's sleeping with a junior analyst named Vanessa Cole, and he is expensing their dates to the firm's clients." I opened my laptop and pulled up the spreadsheet I had copied. "Here," I pointed. "October 14th, the Ritz-Carlton Spa, expensed as team building. October 12th, Le Montage dinner, expensed as prospect development. The total fraudulent expenses over the last 6 months are over $20,000. Veronica stopped writing. She looked up, A slow, shark-like smile spread across her face. Now that, she said softly, is interesting. I don't just want a divorce, Veronica, I said, leaning forward. He told me we couldn't afford a baby. He made me feel guilty for buying name-brand tampons while he was spending thousands on another woman. I don't want a settlement. I want a demolition. Veronica tapped her pen on the table. If we release this information to his employer, he will be fired for cause. He might face criminal charges for embezzlement. If he loses his job, his income drops to zero. That impacts your alimony and child support if you had children. I don't need his alimony, I said. I have my own career. I can support myself. I want him to lose the one thing he loves more than money. His status, Veronica finished. Exactly. Here is the strategy, Veronica said, leaning back. We file for divorce today. We serve him at work. It embarrasses him. Simultaneously, we file a motion to freeze assets so he can't drain that $145,000 account. But the corporate fraud, that's your ace in the hole. We don't release that yet. We use it as leverage to get him to sign over the house, the savings, everything. We tell him, sign the settlement or we send this PDF to Mr. Sterling. I shook my head. No. Veronica frowned. No? Leverage implies I want to negotiate, I said. I don't want to negotiate. He's arrogant, Veronica. If I threaten him, he'll think he can talk his way out of it. He'll think I'm bluffing. He needs to be broken first. So what do you want to do? I want to send the email, I said, today, before we serve the papers. Veronica looked at me for a long moment. She assessed the coldness in my eyes. You realize, she said, that this is the scorched earth option. There's no coming back from this. He bought a Porsche while I cried over ovulation kits, I said. Strike the match. Veronica closed the folder. I'll draft the petition. You send the email, but do it anonymously. Use a VPN. Don't trace it back to you. Already planned, I said. I left the office feeling lighter than air. I retrieved the Porsche, now smelling faintly of fries and regret, and drove home. I parked the car in the garage. I wiped the steering wheel, but I left the ketchup stain on the passenger seat. Let Vanessa explain that one. I walked into the house and went straight to my laptop. I set up a secure, anonymous email account. I attached the spreadsheet. I attached the photos of the receipts matching the dates. Subject, urgent, internal audit, expense fraud, G. Halloway. Recipient, M. Sterling at sterlingpartners.com, HR at sterlingpartners.com. My finger hovered over the enter key. Ding. My phone buzzed. A text from Gavin. Sarah, why did I just get a fraud alert from Chase? Did you try to use the card? My heart skipped a beat. He had seen the $9,500 transfer. I hadn't transferred it to a card. I transferred it to a new account. But the bank must have flagged the large movement. I picked up the phone. I had to play this perfectly. Me? No, I'm home working. Why? There's a pending transfer of $9,500 from my personal account. I didn't authorize it. Me? That's weird. Maybe it's a glitch? Or did you pay off the car lease early? I waited. 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Gavin, I need to call the bank. Don't touch anything. He was panicking. He couldn't tell the bank it was fraud without triggering an investigation into where the money came from. And he couldn't ask me too many questions without revealing the existence of the secret account. He was trapped. I looked back at my laptop screen. The email to his boss was ready, but then I had a better idea. Sending it anonymously was safe, but sending it during a meeting? That was theatrical. I checked Gavin's shared calendar, the one he thought I never looked at because it was too complicated. 2 p.m., quarterly review with M. Sterling and Partners. It was 1:15 p.m. He was going into a review to discuss his promotion. He would be sitting across from the man whose credit card he had been abusing. I decided to wait 45 minutes. I spent the time packing, not my clothes. I wasn't leaving. I was packing his clothes. I went to the bedroom and pulled out his suitcases. I threw in his suits, his shoes, his precious toiletries. I didn't fold them. I shoved them in. At 1:55 p.m., I sat back down at the computer. At 2 p.m. exactly, I hit send. The bomb was in the air. At 2:05 p.m., I walked downstairs and placed his suitcases on the front porch. At 2:10 p.m., my phone rang. It was Gavin. I answered, putting it on speaker as I poured myself a glass of wine. Sarah, he was whispering, but it was a frantic, screaming whisper. Sarah, listen to me carefully. I need you to log into my computer at home right now. I'm busy, Gavin, I said calmly. I'm negotiating the cable bill, like you asked. Forget the cable bill, he hissed. Sterling just got an email. He's looking at it right now. He looks furious. Someone hacked me, Sarah. Someone is trying to frame me. I need you to go into my office and delete the expenses folder on my desktop. Now. Expenses? I asked innocently. I thought you handled all the finances, honey. I wouldn't know where to look. Just do it, he screamed. Go to the desktop, delete the folder, empty the trash. Hurry. I can't do that, Gavin, I said, taking a sip of wine. Why not? Because, I said, my voice turning to ice, I'm the one who sent it. There was silence on the line. Absolute, dead silence. What? He whispered. I know about the Porsche, I said. I know about the $145,000. I know about Vanessa. And I know you bought her roses with the money we were supposed to save for a baby. Sarah, wait. I didn't just delete the folder, Gavin, I continued. I forwarded it to Sterling, to HR, to everyone. You ruined me, he choked out. No, I said. You couldn't afford a baby, remember? I just made sure you can't afford a Porsche either. I heard a door open in the background on his end. I heard a deep, angry voice, Mr. Sterling. Holloway, my office, now. Gavin whimpered. Good luck with the partner track, babe, I said. I hung up the phone. I walked to the window. A tow truck was pulling up to the curb. I had called the leasing company an hour ago and reported the Porsche as abandoned by the lessee due to financial insolvency. I figured they'd want to secure their asset. I watched them hook up the red sports car. Bye-bye, baby, I whispered. The war was on. And I had just fired the nuke. The tow truck driver was a man of few words. He hooked the chains to the undercarriage of the cherry red Porsche, indifferent to the fact that he was dragging away a symbol of midlife virility that cost more than most people earn in a year. As the winch groaned and the sports car tilted upward at an undignified angle, I stood on the porch, sipping my wine. It was a Pinot Grigio, cheap, crisp, and refreshing. You the owner? The driver asked, spitting on the driveway. Technically, I said, but the payments stopped about an hour ago. Consider it a repo. He nodded, climbed into his cab, and drove off. The Porsche disappeared down the street, a red smear vanishing into suburbia. The driveway looked vast and empty without it, just like my marriage. I checked my watch. 2:45 p.m. Gavin hadn't called back since the "you ruined me" phone call. He was likely dealing with security, human resources, and the humiliating process of packing a cardboard box under supervision. I imagined him trying to explain the receipts to Mr. Sterling. No, sir, the roses were a business expense. Client retention. I walked back inside. The house was quiet. My suitcases, his suitcases, were lined up by the door like soldiers. At 3:30 p.m., a yellow taxi pulled up. Not an Uber Black. Not a town car. A beat-up city yellow cab. Gavin got out. He looked like he had gone 12 rounds with a heavyweight boxer. His tie was missing. His top button was popped. He was carrying a banker's box filled with random desk debris, a stapler, a framed photo, face down, and a potted succulent I had given him 3 years ago. He walked up the driveway. He saw the empty spot where the Porsche used to be. He stopped. His shoulders slumped. He saw the suitcases on the porch. He stopped again. I opened the front door but stood in the frame, blocking the entrance. Where is it? He croaked. His voice was raw. The impound lot? I said. Or maybe the auction block. I told them you defaulted. They were very eager to retrieve their property. You evil. He dropped the box on the porch. The succulent pot shattered, spilling dirt over his expensive Italian loafers. You cost me my job, Sarah. Do you understand? They fired me. For cause. Gross misconduct. Embezzlement. I know, I said. I cede HR. They're talking about pressing charges, he screamed, stepping forward. Sterling is threatening to call the DA. I could go to prison. Well, I said, taking a sip of wine, at least you won't have to pay rent. He lunged for the door handle. Let me in. I need a drink. I need to think. No, I said, not moving. You don't live here anymore. This is my house. Actually, I said, pulling a folded piece of paper from my back pocket. According to the motion for exclusive possession filed by my attorney an hour ago, and granted by the judge due to the volatility of the situation and the dissipation of marital assets, you are barred from the premises until the divorce hearing. He stared at the paper. You got a lawyer? Veronica Stone, I said. Gavin blanched. Everyone in the city knew Veronica Stone. She had castrated half the investment bankers in the district. Sarah, Please, he said, his anger crumbling into desperation. Let's just talk. Inside, like adults. I can explain everything. The car, the girl, it was just a phase. The pressure. The partner track. I lost my head. But we can fix this. We have savings. We can start over. We don't have savings, I corrected him. Yes, we do, he insisted. The Vanguard account. There's $140,000 in there. We can use that to pay back Sterling. Maybe he won't press charges if I make restitution. I smiled. It was a sad, tired smile. Check your phone, Gavin. What? Check the Vanguard app. He fumbled for his phone, his hands shaking. He tapped the screen. He waited for it to load. His face went gray. 0, he whispered. It says 0. Frozen? What did you do? I didn't take it, I said. I just froze it. Veronica filed an emergency injunction. Every penny you hid, every crypto wallet, every secret stash, it's all locked down by the court pending the asset division. You can't touch it. You can't pay Sterling back with marital funds. But I need that money, he wailed. If I don't pay Sterling back by Monday, he's going to the police. Then you better start selling things, I said. I hear kidneys fetch a good price on the black market. He looked at me with pure hatred. And Vanessa, did you have to include her in the email? Did you have to ruin her too? Oh, I didn't ruin Vanessa, I said. She did that herself. What do you mean? I checked LinkedIn while I was waiting for you, I said. Vanessa updated her status an hour ago, open to work, and she posted a very long, very emotional statement about how she was manipulated by a superior and coerced into an unethical dynamic. She's claiming sexual harassment, Gavin. She's throwing you under the bus to save her own career. She says you pressured her into the dinners. She says she didn't know you were expensing them. Gavin's mouth fell open. She lied? We were in love. She picked the car. She picked your wallet, I said. And now that it's empty, she's gone. Welcome to the real world. He stood there on the porch, surrounded by the wreckage of his life. The dirt from the broken plant was seeping into his socks. Why? He asked, tears finally spilling over. Why go this far? You could have just divorced me. Why burn it all down? I looked at him. I thought about the negative pregnancy tests in the trash can. I thought about the generic brand cereal. I thought about the nights I lay awake worrying about money while he was buying diamond bracelets for a 24-year-old. Because you stole my time, I said softly. Money I can make back. But you stole 3 years of my fertility. You stole the baby I wanted. You told me we were too poor to be parents, while you were playing sugar daddy to an intern. You didn't just cheat on me, Gavin. You robbed me of a family. I was going to give you a baby, he pleaded. Next year, I promised. You promised a lot of things, I said. Goodbye, Gavin. I stepped back and slammed the heavy oak door. I threw the deadbolt. I heard him pounding on the wood. Sarah, open the door. My keys are in there. My car keys. The Audi key is in your jacket pocket in the suitcase, I shouted through the door. I checked. I heard the zipper of a suitcase rip open. A moment later, I heard the Audi start up in the driveway. It sputtered. It needed a tune-up he had been too cheap to pay for. He backed out and drove away. I slumped against the door, sliding down until I hit the floor. I closed my eyes. I was alone. The house was huge and silent. My phone buzzed. It was Veronica Stone. Just got a call from his lawyer. He hired a public defender because his assets are frozen. They want to settle. They're terrified of the embezzlement charges going criminal. They're offering full asset surrender in exchange for you dropping the fraud complaint with the police. I texted back, I didn't file a police complaint. Sterling did. It's out of my hands. Perfect. That means we have all the leverage. I'm going to draft a settlement that gives you the house, the retirement accounts, and 100% of the frozen assets as restitution for the marital waste. He'll sign it. He has to. I put the phone down. I had won. I had the money. I had the house. I had destroyed the man who lied to me. But the house felt cold. I walked into the kitchen. I opened the fridge. It was full of generic brand food. I grabbed a trash bag. I started throwing it all away. The off-brand soda, the cheap cheese, the stale bread. I emptied the fridge. Then I emptied the pantry. I walked out to the trash can and shoved the bags in. I got in my car, my humble, paid-off Honda Civic. I drove to Whole Foods. I walked down the aisles. I put organic strawberries in my cart. I bought the expensive cheese. I bought the artisan bread. I bought a bottle of Veuve Clicquot. And then I found myself in the baby aisle. I stopped. My hand hovered over a soft yellow blanket. For 3 years, I had walked past this aisle with a knot in my stomach. I picked up the blanket. It was soft, hopeful. I wasn't too old. I was 35. I had money now. I had a house. I didn't need Gavin to have a family. I put the blanket in the cart. I drove home. I cooked myself a steak dinner. I drank the champagne. But the night wasn't over. At 10 p.m., my doorbell rang. I looked at the security camera feed on my phone. It wasn't Gavin. It was a woman. She was young, blonde, and looked like she had been crying for hours. She was holding a cardboard box. Vanessa. I hesitated. I could leave her there. I could call the police. But curiosity is a powerful drug, and I wanted to see the other victim of Gavin's ego. Or maybe I just wanted to see if she was real. I opened the door. Vanessa looked up. Her mascara was running. She was shivering in the cool night air. "Mrs. Holloway?" she whispered. "It's Miss Vance," I said. "I'm keeping my maiden name." He kicked me out," she sobbed. "Gavin. He came to my apartment an hour ago. He was drunk. He screamed at me for posting on LinkedIn. He tried to hit me. I locked him out, but I don't feel safe there. He has a key." She looked at me with pleading eyes. "I know you hate me. I know I'm the other woman, but I didn't know about the baby thing. I swear. He told me you guys were separated. He told me you were roommates just waiting for the market to turn to sell the house." "He lied to everyone, Vanessa," I said. "I have something," she said, clutching the box. "I took it from his desk at work before security escorted me out. I thought you might want it. It's evidence. Or closure." She held out the box. I looked inside. It wasn't financial papers. It wasn't receipts. It was a notebook, a black moleskine. I opened it. It was Gavin's handwriting, but it wasn't numbers. It was a journal, or rather, a ledger of his life plan. Year 1, secure the marriage, income stability. Year 3, convince S to delay kids, cost prohibitive. Year 5, make partner, divert funds to offshore. Leave S, upgrade lifestyle. He had planned it. It wasn't just a midlife crisis. It wasn't a mistake. He had married me for my stability, used my income to build his cushion, and planned to discard me the moment he hit his financial target. The Porsche wasn't an impulse buy. It was the trophy for completing his plan. I stared at the page. The cruelty of it took my breath away. He had engineered my heartbreak on a spreadsheet. "I thought you should know," Vanessa whispered. "He's not just a cheater. He's a sociopath." I looked at Vanessa. She was young, stupid, but she was right. "Come inside," I said. "I have tea, and I have a very aggressive lawyer who would love to see that notebook." Vanessa stepped into the foyer. I closed the door. Gavin Holloway thought he had hit rock bottom today. He thought losing his job and his car was the worst of it. But he was wrong. Because now, the wife and the mistress were in the same room, and we were comparing notes. I sat at my kitchen island, a glass of Veuve Clicquot in one hand and a highlighter in the other, reading the roadmap of my own destruction. I had spent 3 years believing that we were partners in poverty because he said we can't afford kids. Then he bought a sports car. But as I turned the pages of the black moleskine notebook Vanessa had stolen, I realized I hadn't been a partner at all. I was an incubator for his bank account. Gavin hadn't just made bad choices. He had executed a 5-year business plan where I was the initial investor and Vanessa was the acquisition target. But business plans have a fatal flaw. They assume the assets won't fight back. And Gavin was about to learn that this asset had teeth. If you've stuck with me through the lies, the luxury cars, and the liquidation of a narcissist, you deserve a front row seat to the finale. Hit that subscribe button and like this video because we aren't just closing the book on Gavin Holloway, we are burning the library. "Read page 42, Vanessa whispered. She was sitting across from me, wrapped in one of my throw blankets, looking like a ghost of the girl who had smirked at me in the restaurant. Her arrogance had been washed away by fear. I flipped to the page. It was dated 2 years ago. Entry, Project Solitude. Objective, eliminate S's support network. Tactics, complain about her friends' spending habits. Isolate her from family by claiming travel costs are prohibitive. Create dependency. Status, success. She only talks to me. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. It wasn't just the money. It was the psychological warfare. He had systematically cut me off from the world so that when he finally discarded me, I would have nowhere to go. "He's a monster," I said, my voice shaking. He documented it. He actually wrote down create dependency like it was a grocery list. There's more, Vanessa said, pointing to the last entry, dated the day he bought the Porsche. Entry, the exit strategy. Asset liquidity, high. Target V, Cole confirmed. Action. Trigger arguments about money to justify separation. Blame S's emotional instability regarding the baby issue. File for divorce post bonus season. Keep the Porsche in the LLC name to hide it from asset division. He was going to gaslight me into thinking the divorce was my fault, I realized, slamming the book shut. He was going to tell everyone I was crazy because I wanted a baby we couldn't afford, while he drove off into the sunset with you and my savings. He told me you were abusive, Vanessa admitted quietly. He said you screamed at him about money every day. He said he needed the Porsche to feel alive again. Well, I said, standing up and pouring the rest of the champagne into the sink. I didn't want to celebrate anymore. I wanted blood. He's about to feel very alive, because the police are going to love this book. You're calling the police? Vanessa asked, her eyes widening. Not yet, I said. Veronica Stone needs to see this first. This proves premeditated fraud. It proves marital waste. It proves coercive control. In the eyes of the law, this notebook turns a standard divorce into a criminal conspiracy. But before I could call Veronica, the front doorknob rattled. Violently. We both froze. It was 11 p.m. The house was dark. Then came the pounding, heavy, desperate fists against the oak. Sarah! Gavin's voice was muffled but unmistakable. It was slurred, angry, and terrifying. I know she's in there. Open the damn door! She stole my property. He knew Vanessa was here. He must have tracked her phone, or maybe he saw her car parked down the street. Don't open it, Vanessa whimpered, shrinking into the chair. He's drunk. He gets scary when he's drunk. I looked at the security monitor on the wall. Gavin was on the porch. He looked disheveled, his shirt untucked, his eyes wild. He was holding a tire iron. I'm not opening it, I said, moving quickly to the keypad by the door. I'm arming the system. Beep, beep, arm. Sarah, he screamed, swinging the tire iron. Crack. He hit the decorative glass panel next to the door. It shattered inward, spraying shards over the entryway rug. He's breaking in, Vanessa screamed. Call 911, I ordered, my voice surprisingly steady. Go to the pantry and lock the door. Do it now. Vanessa scrambled away. I didn't run. I wasn't going to hide in my own house. I grabbed the only weapon I had handy, a heavy ceramic vase from the hallway table. Gavin reached through the broken glass and unlocked the deadbolt. He kicked the door open. He stumbled into the foyer, breathing hard. The tire iron hung loosely in his hand. He spotted me standing at the bottom of the stairs. Where is it? He snarled, stepping over the glass. Where is the book? It's gone, Gavin, I lied. I emailed photos of every page to my lawyer, to your boss, and to the district attorney. It's in the cloud. You can't burn the cloud. He stopped. The color drained from his flushed face. You sent it to the DA? He whispered. Premeditated fraud, I said, tightening my grip on the vase. That's a felony, Gavin, especially when you cross state lines with the money, which your ledger says you did. The Cayman account? Page 54? He dropped the tire iron. It clattered loudly on the floor. I'm finished, he muttered, swaying on his feet. I'm actually finished. You were finished the minute you bought that car, I said. You were just too arrogant to read the room. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting louder by the second. Blue and red lights began to flash through the open door, painting the walls in chaotic bursts of color. Gavin looked at the door, then he looked at me. For a second, I saw the man I had married, the scared, insecure boy hiding under the expensive suit. Sarah, he said, his voice cracking. I just wanted to be someone. I just wanted to matter. You mattered to me, I said softly. But that wasn't enough for you, was it? The police rushed in, guns drawn. Drop to your knees, hands on your head. I watched as they cuffed him. I watched as they dragged him out, stumbling and weeping, past the shattered glass of the home he had destroyed. I didn't feel triumph. I felt a heavy, final release. The weight of the last 3 years, the guilt, the frugality, the yearning, lifted off my shoulders. Vanessa came out of the pantry, shaking. We stood in the foyer, two women who had been played by the same man, watching the flashing lights fade into the night. The next few months were a blur of legal victories. With the life plan journal as evidence, Veronica Stone didn't just win the divorce. She annihilated Gavin's defense. The judge was appalled. He granted me 100% of the marital assets, including the house, the retirement accounts, and the hidden $145,000, which the court seized. Because Gavin had used marital funds to facilitate his affair and his fraud, the judge ruled it dissipation of assets and awarded me punitive damages. Gavin didn't even show up to the final hearing. He was in jail, awaiting trial for embezzlement from Sterling and Partners. Mr. Sterling, furious about the betrayal, had pressed charges. Gavin took a plea deal, 5 years in minimum security, restitution of all stolen funds, and a permanent ban from the financial industry. He was ruined. His brand, his career, his freedom, gone. Vanessa testified against him. In exchange, she got immunity. She moved back to her parents' house in Ohio to start over. She sent me a card a few weeks later. "Thank you for saving me," it read. I didn't write back. We weren't friends, we were just survivors of the same shipwreck. But amidst the lawsuits and the depositions, I had one more appointment to keep. A week after the divorce was finalized, I walked into the reproductive health center downtown. I sat in the waiting room, surrounded by couples holding hands. I was alone, but I didn't feel lonely. I felt powerful. "Sarah Vance," the nurse called. I walked back. The doctor, a kind woman with warm eyes, looked at my chart. "So, Sarah," she said, "you're interested in becoming a single mother by choice?" "Yes," I said. "I was told for years I couldn't afford it. Turns out I can." "Well," she smiled, "your tests look excellent. You're 35, healthy, and your ovarian reserve is strong. We can start the IUI process with a donor as soon as your next cycle begins." I walked out of that clinic into the bright sunlight. I stopped at the corner and bought a coffee, a $6 latte with oat milk. I didn't feel guilty. I drank it, savoring the sweetness. I had the money, I had the house, and soon I would have the baby. But the story doesn't end there. Because while I was dismantling Gavin's life, I discovered something about myself. I was good at this. I was good at finding the patterns in the numbers. I was good at spotting the lies in the ledger. I was good at seeing the things that other women, blinded by love and gaslighting, missed. A month later, I was having lunch with Veronica Stone. She handed me the final decree. "You're a free woman, Sarah," she said, raising her martini, "and a wealthy one. What are you going to do? Go back to graphic design." "I don't think so," I said, playing with the stem of my glass. "I've been thinking. Gavin got away with it for so long because the documents were boring. He hid the truth in spreadsheets that were designed to look intimidating." "That's how they all do it," Veronica nodded. "Financial abuse is the silent killer of marriages." "I want to make it loud," I said. I reached into my bag and pulled out a portfolio. I slid it across the table. "What's this?" Veronica asked. "It's a business plan," I said. "I'm calling it the Red Ink Agency. It's a specialized forensic design firm. We take financial documents, bank statements, credit card bills, tax returns, and we visualize them. We turn the boring numbers into infographics, charts that show exactly where the money is going, timelines that overlay business trips with credit card charges at hotels. We make the fraud impossible to ignore." Veronica opened the portfolio. She looked at the sample I had made using Gavin's data. It was beautiful, sharp, and damning. A pie chart showed household expenses as a tiny sliver and Gavin's secrets as a massive red wedge. "Sarah," Veronica breathed, "this is genius. I have 50 clients right now who suspect their husbands are hiding assets but can't prove it because they don't understand the spreadsheets. If I could show a judge a visual like this." "Exactly," I said. "You provide the legal muscle. I provide the visual evidence. We help women see the truth before they lose 5 years of their lives." Veronica closed the portfolio. She looked at me with a grin that was all teeth. "When can you start?" "Today," I said. Epilogue, 1 year later. The office of the Red Ink Agency is bustling. It's located in a converted loft downtown with big windows and exposed brick. I have 3 employees now, 2 data analysts and another graphic designer. We are busy. Tragically busy. I sit at my desk reviewing a case file. A woman in Connecticut thinks her husband is losing money in the stock market. My charts show he's actually funneling it into a shell company in Nevada. Another Gavin. Another liar. My phone buzzes. It's a text from the nanny, photo attachment. It's a picture of a chubby-cheeked 6-month-old baby boy sitting in the grass, laughing. He has my eyes and a dimple that belongs entirely to him. "Leo, my son. I smile, a genuine, bone deep warmth spreading through my chest. He is expensive, he is exhausting, and he is the best investment I ever made. I hear a knock at my glass door. Sarah? It's Veronica. She's holding a thick file. We got a big one, tech CEO. Wife thinks he's buying crypto. The numbers don't add up. Bring it in, I said, spinning my chair around. Let's see what he's hiding. I look out the window. Down on the street, traffic is moving. I see a flash of red. A Porsche 911 speeds by, the engine roaring, a man in sunglasses behind the wheel. For a second, I think of Gavin. He's out on parole in 2 years. He'll be 40, broke, and barred from his profession. He'll have to start over from nothing. I look back at the photo of Leo. I look at the team of women working in my office, using their skills to drag the truth into the light. He said we couldn't afford a life, I whispered to myself. He was right. He couldn't afford me. I pick up my stylus. I open a fresh digital canvas. Okay, Veronica, I say, my voice sharp and ready. Let's follow the money. The adventure isn't over, it's just beginning, and this time I'm driving.